All right, and we are live with SampleServe Masterclass Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I am Joshua Paul, Product Manager of SampleServe, and with me I have Russell Schindler, Founder and CEO of SampleServe. Russell, say hi.
How's it going?
So what we like to do on these Wednesdays is we like to bring on some of our users of our apps. We like to give you industry news. We like to show you some new features that we're adding to our apps, and we like to give you some tips and tricks that you can do with our apps as well. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure you add them in the chat. We always like to get to that. Even after this is over, you can add them in the chat. We'll get to it. And if you think this was helpful to anybody, give this link a send to them. These links are remain live afterwards. This just becomes a saved video afterwards. So just share the link to them, and that'll work. So today we have a special one about a labs and integration with our SampleServe Sample ENV digital data collection app. And we're going to give you a quick overview. We're going to talk about how the benefits are of digital data collection in the field, our digital chain of custody, and seamless lab integration, and then your opportunities for your lab to have our app essentially look like it was built by you and ran by you, which is pretty nice.
Their own version of our platform. Yep.
And so we usually cover Sample ENV. We have a couple of different apps for different users. Sample ENV is built for environmental professionals. It does have a functionality that you start planning projects, and then you move over to the field app, and then it has a lab app that's built in that laboratories can use. And then it goes back onto the platform where clients can make professional maps and graphs and tables. So let's explain how the app works a little bit first, Russell. You're kind of the brain. What's the word? Brainchild. I wanted to say brainchild of this platform.
I've been accused of being a child many times.
Okay.
So I'm a geologist. I've been doing environmental work since I got out of college in 1987, and I've collected literally tens of thousands of samples over the years. And, I'm also just kind of an efficiency nut. It's kind of a curse sometimes, but I always was looking for a more efficient way to get things done. And coupled with that, my penmanship is horrible. For whatever reason, I've just never had great penmanship. And so I started thinking about ways to, collect data and, print labels because I've literally had labs call me up numerous times and complain about my penmanship. And so I was like, all right, I got to print this stuff. And so that's really kind of how it started, creating applications to pre-print labels, pre-print chain of custodies, pre-print most of like a field data form. But then as technology evolved and as we kept leveraging that technology to get our job done more efficiently, we basically stumbled across this digital way of doing things. And then people started asking, hey, can we use your stuff? Can we use the software? And my initial reaction was no. I'm not a software company because we built it for our own purposes. But then we decided, let's actually be in the software business. So that's kind of how we got going.
Yeah, and that's what makes this software really differentiate from other applications that are sometimes in use in the field for environmental sample collection, because there's a lot of apps out there that you can use in the field, but they're not necessarily built for the sampler by samplers.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah. There are some platforms out there, and I can tell you, having looked at them, tried them out, where, for instance, there's some electronic chain of custodies out there, right? And they're built for the laboratory. So the field guy is going like, all right, I got to still write down my data on these forms because we need them for our company. But then the lab wants me to log into this app and like enter all the data again into that app.
Right.
Well, if you can't make that field guy's job easier by, just scraping the information needed for the chain of custody from the application that he's using it for to just do his job. If you can't do that, where he's got to duplicate his work effort in the field, you're probably not going to get a lot of compliance from that field person. So, and having been that field person who's, working long hours in adverse conditions and then has to go and sit in the parking lot of the laboratory and fill out that chain of custody, I understand those pain points and the pressures and the reasons why they want to just make it as simple as possible. Type in the data one time and it gets, sent to the places it needs to be, including the chain of custody, including the labels that need to go on the bottles, all kind of distributed where the information needs to be. And that's really the key to, a good application. I don't care what, it doesn't necessarily mean any application for any product or service that you're out there. It's being able to make it as simple to use and efficient as possible. Then you're going to get good adoption.
Right. Correct. And this is really where we shine. This is our patented digital chain of custody. So Russell, tell us about the benefits of using digitally generated chain of custody as opposed to either paper or other methods that are out there right now.
Yeah, so it's actually better than paper, and the reason I say it's better is because it's immutable. You cannot alter it. If I'm collecting something on paper, I can say that I collected it whenever I want to. If I'm transferring custody, I can say that the custody transferred at any location that I say it happened. When you're using our application, we know it's you, right? And I could actually sign someone else's name if I'm using paper. But in our application, you're logging in under your username and password, right? So everyone knows, never give up your password. So if somebody's logged in under that, we know it's you. You're also going to sign your name every time you take a sample, and you're also going to take a selfie. So there's no question about the who whenever you collect a sample. We also get a date and time stamp. So whenever you hit that sample button, we grab the timestamp, and then so we know exactly what time it happened. And then we also grab a GPS coordinate. So we know with certainty the who, the where, and the when of every sample collected and every transfer of custody. And some of the benefits are this is immutable, right? You can't change it. So we know with certainty. And there's been many times where people, for some reason, they think they sampled the wrong location. That happens all the time. They're like, hey, the data is not lining up with what we anticipated. We think they sampled the wrong location. Well, because we're printing labels in the field right at the time of sampling, it's got the timestamp. But in our data file, which is readily accessible by the client, we have that GPS coordinate built into the data file. So they can literally see where the sampler was when they hit that sample button and printed the labels. And because these are the only labels they have in their possession at the time they printed it, it's very likely that they put the right labels on the right bottle. And so we're able to go, okay, here was the official GPS of that sample location. And they were standing 6 feet away when they hit the sample button. So now we can very reasonably assume that they were at the right location. And the other ones they think they were messed up on, they mixed up is 200 feet away. Unlikely that they put the wrong labels on.
That situation has helped some of our users in the past.
Yes. It's field technicians have been falsely accused of sampling the wrong location, and we're able to prove their innocence.
Right. So. Yeah. And the other nice thing is, once that COC is created, it's a digital form now, and it can be sent to anybody. It needs to be instantaneously.
Yeah, the lab literally can get a view. They don't see everything that you're doing, but they can tell that you started the project, right? And then when you hit that chain of custody button, as long as you're connected to the cloud, within milliseconds, they have a copy of that chain of custody. And they can review it for short hold times or, rush samples. So they have a copy of that chain of custody even before the lab, before the samples arrive at the lab.
Yeah, and that kind of comes into our integrations as what do we offer for the laboratory as well? Because the laboratory connects to our platform in several different ways.
Yep.
One of the ways is that you connect your test library so that when your clients are planning their projects and they're creating a work scope to go out and sample things, they can grab from your test library that you upload. so that everything's always accurate. I know there's always a lot of problems where, the chain of custody will say, hey, do this test with this method, but then there's always something wrong. Something doesn't match. The bottles don't match.
Yeah,
Or
and typically, so really, there's kind of a movement in the lab business to reduce sample volumes.
Mhm.
Just there's a lot of benefits, just less material, less shipping costs. You can put more samples in a cooler if you have smaller bottles. So there's a movement to have smaller bottles and less bottles. And some labs want 3 VOAs for BTEX analysis. Some only want 2. Well, they populate that menu, that test library. If they only need 2, they're going to put 2, and then we only print 2 labels, right, instead of 3.
Yeah.
So, and then if it's 100, if they were using a 250 mil poly for a metals analysis, and now they've got new technology, new extraction methods, and they can go to 125 mil. They just update their menu, and then, so they know all that. And the other benefit is we do the bottle ordering right through the platform as well. So when they create that project, the bottle order is actually known to the laboratory ahead of time. So there's no last minute. I want to say there's no, because there's always people who will procrastinate. But if everything's run the way it's designed, that bottle order will be known and visible to the client or to the laboratory, and then they can confirm, yeah, you're still doing this project on this day. Yes. Okay. Bottles are on their way. So it just really helps alleviate a lot of those communication problems. It automates those and keeps everyone on the same page at the same time.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, we're going to show a little video of this. Is that when the bottles do come into the laboratory, there's a little chain of custody or custody seal that you can scan with the lab app, and everything just pops up instantaneously right there. You know what's inside that cooler just by scanning the outside.
Yeah,
So you don't have to open up
and they actually know what's inside. Assuming everything's done right, they can even see it a day ahead of time when they've generated that chain of custody.
Yeah, and then the integrations that we can do once you get those in, you can always transfer that information to whatever system you're using very easily. So let's play this video, Russell, and you can go over what we're seeing.
So that's the chain of custody seal on the outside of the cooler. It gets printed from the same printer that we use. Whenever they're ready to ship a COC, they can print the custody seal number. If it's 3 coolers, they can print 3 of those. And then when they arrive, they're going to go through that 3-part authentication: username, password, signature, selfie. There's a built-in checklist, which is customizable by the laboratory. And then you scan the QR codes on the lids of the bottles, so you don't have to pick up each individual bottle. And then it completes that custody, and then you can share that completed chain of custody and checklist with your client within a minute or 2 of the samples actually arriving at the lab. So what maybe would take 20, 30, 40 minutes for an average size cooler full of samples can now be done in 2 to 3 minutes. So it really does save the laboratories about 90% of their lab login time, and it's accurate, right? They're not questioning whether that's a 3 or a 5, which is one of the complaints that I would get from laboratories when I was handwriting those. So,
yeah. And then afterwards, the nice thing is there's no transcribing that data because it's already digital. So you can throw that into whatever system that you're using through many different ways, depending on what kind of lab, system that you're using.
Yeah. And we can import into any LIMS system out there. And we do that either through an API or a JSON file or a CSV. So we just need to know what import format that you guys prefer. What the layout is, and we can replicate that and import that data right away.
Yeah, perfect. Now let's talk about one push that we're going for is this service that we offer can be the same exact service that your laboratory offers.
Yes.
We can easily change our name on the application. We have it set up that you can have this application as a separate application in the Play Store and on the website with your name on it. So it looks like this is a full service from project planning to in the field through the laboratory, and then a platform that also easily creates and generates report graphics for their clients.
Yeah. The analogy that I use is, if you go back 10 years ago, the first two banks that came out with mobile banking apps, right, was Wells Fargo and Chase Bank. They kind of came out at about the same time. And I know this because I signed up with Wells Fargo back then. And then they had the first app. It was great. And the applications for banks just proliferated to the
Mhm.
point where most people wouldn't use a bank now that if they don't have a mobile app, right? Even
Right.
down to your small little, local credit unions has an application. And so it's kind of going to be the same thing, I believe. We're offering our app to any laboratory that wants a copy of it. We can brand it to your name. And so your lab will have its own app, not just the lab app, but the field app and the planning part of it as well, where
Mhm.
they can go and set up their projects and under your brand. And, which it then allows your customers to kind of, use your lab within your app. So just like if you have a Wells Fargo banking app, you're not going to be able to do transactions with Chase. So it's kind of the same thing. It's going to make your customers, work within your application. So if they use our app right now, we're agnostic. If they're using the SampleServe branded app, we're agnostic. You can work with any lab out there, even labs that don't participate with us. You just have to actually print out that PDF chain of custody that we generate. But we can work with any lab out there.
And one thing I'd like to add too is that any laboratory can be using this, offering the SampleServe field app to any of their clients and have all these same exact
Yeah.
integrations.
Yeah.
You
Even
don't
under our brand. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have it still under our brand, but you can say, "Hey, we have a field solution for you that
Yeah.
integrates very well with our application." Because really, the only difference is with white labeling is that your name is on the app and it looks like it's all your brand,
Yeah.
but you can still offer these solutions to them and have the same exact integrations.
Yeah.
And
And and
the
right
nice
now
thing is,
we're
oh, you go.
offering to white label the application for any lab that's interested at no cost. Now you do have to pay your fees um, on the Apple Store and the Android Store because it's your app up there. So you got to pay those fees, but we'll actually make a copy and help you get it, uploaded to the stores and get it approved. But we don't charge any fees for that. Now, the way we monetize that is at the end of the sampling process, and the lab posts the data. We want the customer to be able to opt into our reporting services. We generate all the graphs, tables, maps, contours, and we do charge a fee for those reporting services. But we don't charge for the project planning and the mobile app part of it. So, or the lab part. So, not everyone converts and uses our reporting services, and that's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
But enough of them do to make it worthwhile for us to offer those reporting services and then give away the sample collection part of it at no cost.
So yeah, we got a couple comments. We got a very cool and insightful from I don't want to mess up your name. Is that Angita?
Augustine, yeah, and Gita Augustine, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's a very I'd like to say like futuristic mindset that we're trying to have here on what labs can offer their clients. I think it's going to be a game changer in the future. Every laboratory is going to have their own application, and for the laboratories that think they want to start from the ground up and start building this stuff out on your own, other laboratories have tried this and it's not working out because one of the problems is they keep it lab centric in their mind. How can we make our lives easier? And this is a full
And
solution.
it increases the work on the part of the field tech.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, because that's where it starts, right? If you can't get the guy to start it digitally, it's going to be hard pressed to keep it digital the rest of the way. So,
Right.
and that's really the point of software, right? I mean, not just our software, any software is, right? And if you think about all the good software, it takes the tedious work out of work, right? The data entry, writing things down, having to go back to the office and transcribe stuff. We take all that away, right? It's all done right at the point of data collection, and it just keeps everything right, digital all the way through back to the report. So that's really the point of software. And, we're looking, when we're developing things and building things, we just look at ways to keep them as efficient as possible.
Correct. So if our next slide is really for, everybody to learn more about our product, because we can't cover everything in 20 minutes. If you really want to learn more about how our project planning tool, our field app, chain of custody, lab app, everything works, we have a virtual tour on our website, SampleServe.com. Just click virtual tour at the top there, and it's a couple separate videos that take you through the process. It'll probably take you about 25 minutes to get from beginning to end, but they're broken up into small videos so you can watch the parts that you want to watch.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, or you want to, you're thinking about, using SampleServe as your field digital data collection solution, contact Russell at russell@sampleserve.com, and we can get you rolling on either a white label or getting you set up as a participating laboratory in our system. That laboratory list is always growing, and it's really easy when your clients are setting projects up and your laboratory is connected. It offers many benefits to both the user and the laboratory.
Yeah, one thing I'll say in terms of like setting their projects up, most of our clients, they'll set projects up for a year or more in advance. So if you're the laboratory, that kind of forecast knowledge of, hey, these projects are going to be 200 samples over the next year or more, it's just great information to have in terms of, forecasting your revenue, forecasting your material needs, bottles, that kind of stuff, and your labor as well. So,
yeah, it's really nice. Well, I think we're going over a 20-minute segment here, Russell. I think we've
I got a little long.
So, make sure you send a message out to Russell, and if you're interested, and also make sure you send this link out to everybody that you think this would be helpful to. And we can also offer, there's a place in this area where this virtual demo is to sign up for a schedule in-person demo where we can go over more in-depth stuff and answer more questions for you. So we're going to end it there. Thank you guys for joining us. Anything to add, Russell?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All
Have
right.
a great rest of the week.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Have a good one.